The history of the National Prayer Breakfast dates back to the year 1987, where the then Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Kalonzo Musyoka, was invited to the United States National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C. Back at home, when the idea was floated by the leaders, the then former President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi was skeptical of holding such an event owing to the heightened political temperatures occasioned by the push for a multi-party democracy. It wasn't until 2003 that the first Kenya National Prayer event was held. The practice has since been passed down regime after regime, but as NTV's Sydney Chazima interrogates, has the National Prayer event really served the intended purposes?
It is the year 1987, 2 years before the end of the reign of America's 40th President, Ronald Reagan. Kenya's then Deputy Speaker, Kalonzo Musyoka, gets invited to attend the 34th U.S. National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C. His invitation would appear to trigger the curiosity around this event. And true to that fact, in 1988, the Speaker, Moses Keino, after attending the event, would be fascinated by how the prayer breakfast brought religious leaders and political rivals to share the same room. Keino would then use his influence to persuade then-President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi to attend the U.S. prayer breakfast in 1990. And from that, Keino went on a charm offensive, convincing fellow legislators to form prayer fellowship groups. But the tumultuous political climate around the multi-party democracy in the country in the early 90s cancelled out the success of the fellowship groups, leading to its total halt. David Musila's election as Mwingi South MP in 1997, the legislator would again begin to structure parliamentary prayer fellowship groups with the help of like-minded leaders in the shape of Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. In the year 2002, the country witnessed perhaps the most peaceful election, and with that stability, pockets of parliamentary prayer groups began holding prayers at Boulevard Hotel and Muthaiga Country Club, and hence the birth of Kenya's first national prayer event followed in 2003. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka became the chairman of the organization.
Through this event,
the National Prayer Breakfast has now become a calendar event in the country, bringing together friends and foes in the country's political sphere. But has the event, which is touted as a moment of spiritual reflection and reconciliation, lived up to its billing? Many a times, politicians have been accused of putting together a holy act during the event, then go ahead to tear into each other later. Last year's edition came at a time when former President Uhuru Kenyatta and his then Deputy William Ruto were at loggerheads politically.
The last prayer breakfast here was a very toxic affair, full of tension and hatred. The president today, who was deputy president, would not sit on the same table with his boss.
This year's event is different but somewhat the same. The opposition coalition led by Raila Odinga elected to give the event a wide berth, citing their reservations that being seen together with the president at such an event may be misconstrued for political gain.
Umeona juzi huyo mzee ameona president anaenda pale anakimbia hapo atapigwa picha. Akimwona kwa mpira anakimbia for photograph. Atidio watu yake atuwatulie. The president of Kenya has no problem for photo opportunities. Huyo mzee akisikia pahali tuko akuje apige picha.
President William Ruto at today's event called for political tolerance.
We must remain cognizant of a line no one should ever cross, of wishing that this nation fails or that her people suffer, just to vindicate our politics. Neither can we pursue an agenda of sabotage for political advantage.
Sydney Chazima, NTV.